Yeah. Well, I see your posts. You guys are doing really good. Posting, the consistency's there. That's one of the hardest things that I found is like the consistency of posting on Instagram and continuously, not even necessarily always looking to provide value, although that's important, but saying something, having that voice, having that presence, the consistency of that, I think that's what people like to see. They like to engage with someone who's there, not when you just take massive vacations. That's something I've, honestly struggled with over the past year. So I'm looking forward to getting back into that. Alrighty, everyone. My name is Jonathan. Thank you so much for tuning into the Aymin audio experience. I am here today with Jon Cantrell, and he's a special guest for a number of different reasons. Number one of which is that I play in a men's basketball league that this man has set up, and it is a lot of fun. Meets on Sundays. It is a rec league, but Jon has really put together a great group of guys, and it's the best league by far in the Inland Empire, up in the Riverside area. It is in Temecula, Murrieta area, if you guys are familiar with that at all. I've been in the league for quite a few seasons, and it's a blast. So he's here. He does a number of different things. Jon, thanks so much for being on the show.
Hey, thanks for having me, and I really appreciate the kind words for the league.
Oh no, it's a good league. It's a lot of fun. I think it's tough, as you get older. I think so many of us play sports in high school, whatever it is, junior high, maybe even some in college, and then you really start to fall off, especially if you don't do anything after college. And so having a league like yours that is a great outlet for really athletic guys to come out and play together, I think is a huge opportunity. And I know I was pumped when I was introduced to it by my brother-in-law.
Yeah, definitely.
Where did the idea come from you? I mean, did you play basketball in high school growing up? I mean, where kind of was your inspiration to actually get that league started?
Yeah, well, before I was, before Take Pride, I was with another basketball company, actually with one of my first coaches growing up. So he was a mentor and a partner of mine. And so started, the men's league with just kind of like a need and a want to, to play, continue the competitive drive and the competitive nature that, we all have, and, it needed something, our area needed something like that. And
it definitely gets competitive. I mean, there's been blood, there's been plenty of sweat, obviously.
Call the ambulance, I mean, it's grinding out there, but it's so much fun seeing everyone. I mean, and I tell the same story to everyone is it's such a family oriented environment that, sometimes it's like a safe haven for everyone too, where some guys, just want to get away, from whatever they're experiencing in their life. And we start at 2:00, and if their game is at 2:00, that same guy is sitting there until, 8, 9 o'clock at night and just watching games, whether he has the passion for the sport or just, enjoys being, in that environment and, kind of seeing everyone. And
there's definitely a community that has come about 100%. As a result of that. And, guys will start to get to know each other. And I know I've hung out for other games, and sometimes even, you'll get asked to play other games, just fill in for people who aren't there. And you definitely start getting to know people and what they do. It definitely is a cool community.
Yeah. Definitely.
How do you promote it? Because I think, a lot of my listeners, they may have the dream one day of starting their own project, their own brand, their own sports league, right? How did you go about getting it? Was it just kind of, you had some homies and you put it together like that? Were you doing Facebook and Instagram marketing? Were you on Instagram at first? What was your strategy to kind of bring this into the public eye so that you actually started getting some teams?
Yeah, well, at that time, it was kind of just like a word of mouth. And at that time, I was coaching, keeping like my team somewhat local, running tournaments and stuff for the youth market. And then, just putting up flyers and stuff at the tournaments and kind of just, shaking hands and, hey, I got this going on as well. And it kind of just snowball effect. It just kind of did that whole thing. I did do some, Facebook marketing and stuff, kind of just, putting just stuff on there in like the local, groups and stuff like that. And got really, really good responses out of that. I've never really like promoted it. Because I know how many teams I can accept in my league for the times that were offered. Mm-hmm. And then so it was kind of like easy to kind of grow because as the season would end, I would have a couple of weeks off or whatever, and then we'd start right back up. So it kind of drew like a want for it. And so after, those were done, the season was done. The next one would start right back up. And, next thing you know, I'd have like 1-2 extra teams wanting to play. And at that time where our location was really small. And so
where'd you guys start? We
started at a place called the Courthouse.
Okay.
And it was a really small court.
Was that in Temecula, same area?
It was Temecula. It was 4-on-4. It was a smaller court.
Okay.
I had 4 hours, so I could only have 8 teams.
Okay.
And that was for, I would say, a good maybe year and a half. So I would say about 4 or 5, maybe 6 seasons, I would say. We had ran there, and then, at that point I hit my kind of like the point where I was like, well, I can't really grow anymore from here. So what would be the next,
just doing the 4-on-4.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, because I had no more time, and then just it seems like I was heading to the direction of, at that time was, I had 40, 50-year-olds meshing with, 20-year-olds.
Mm-hmm.
And so at that time, I'm like, okay, well, to grow this, obviously I need another location. But 2, to grow it, I need to have different divisions and, to make it fair for everyone, have fun, stuff like that. So, excuse me. After that, when we left there, the owner was going to sell the place and we didn't want to buy it because just there was no growth. You'd be very stagnant there. Mm-hmm. So the opportunity came about at Murrieta Mesa High School. The AD over there, the principal over there, super, super supportive. They play in the league. And they go to bat for it. A lot of schools and stuff don't really, when they hear men's league, they retract from it.
Totally. Yep.
And I could see it, with fighting and people just being too competitive, maybe loitering or something outside or something like that, But I have such a great relationship with the school and the district and stuff that they really put their trust and understanding of what I'm trying to accomplish. And they allow it. I'm very fortunate for sure. So definitely.
And that is huge because, from a liability standpoint, definitely. I mean, if anyone has been to any of the games, if anyone who John and I personally know have been to any of the games, I mean, there's a lot of really athletic guys. Guys are throwing rebounds off the backboard. There's some dunks happening, which just recently was allowed because of the liability thing. Mm-hmm. But I mean, that's a huge thing that they're willing to let you do that. It's a beautiful gym.
Yeah, it is. It's amazing. I mean, having two courts. I'm at the point now where I almost want 3, mm-hmm. Just so I can, kind of shorten up the days, but also offer, a little bit more room and, maybe another division here coming up soon. So
that'd be
pretty
cool.
Excited in the direction that it's all going. Everyone in the league is, amazing. They follow my rules. They don't have any gripes or, moaning about the rules. They already know what they're getting into from the beginning. And they respect it, and that's why I think it continuously, is great for the community, and it grows, with the support of everyone, understanding and all that stuff. So,
what struggles did you have when starting it, or what, and maybe even now, what things now are you like, shit, I got to figure this out. This is kind of an issue. It doesn't sound like there's not that there's necessarily a growth issue per se, but is it managing the different personalities? Is it what is it that kind of maybe even was a surprise to you, that you didn't realize would be something you'd have to think about when you started back doing 4v4?
Well, I mean, to be completely honest, I would like to say from myself, I've got to this point knowing that it would come out this way, mm-hmm. or it would turn out this way or end up this way. I don't know. I don't know if it was ever going to be like this. But I'm definitely
be like what? Just
the way that it is right now.
Okay.
Of how good it is, how competitive it is, how well ran it is. And it's just something I think that I stuck to my guns with the way that I run things, and everyone else followed and kind of helped with that and helped mold that and put all that into place. So, the only thing that I really struggle or worry about is each season I have, a new team or something, and you just never know by talking over the phone with someone who you're actually going to get, mm-hmm. And I don't try to steer away anybody, I want to try to give everyone a chance to play. And, if I'm full, I'll try to work it out or try to fit you in somehow, some way, team wise. And, so the struggle was, from we'll go back from 4-on-4 versus now 5-on-5, was I wanted to make sure that I utilized that space, to the fullest, not just a couple hours here and there. So coming from 8 teams to that, I could fill that no problem, but now I'm thinking, okay, well, now how can I get that other court, filled? Or how can I go from 2 to 9 or, instead of going 3-4 hours or something? So, definitely had my mind, turning and stuff, but I think just the consistency with everything, and now I have like the uniforms and everything looks good and all that stuff.
And that is
it attracts.
And that is a really cool thing. A lot of times you'll see rec leagues and it'll just be, pennies or whatever. You guys actually really have it together.
Yeah.
You have jerseys, shorts, everything definitely does look very uniform. Have you done, I feel like a year, maybe a couple seasons ago, you guys did sponsors. Do you still do sponsors?
I do. Yeah.
Okay.
So with the site and stuff like that, I'm working on a new one. I had my old one get hacked actually. So I'm a little bummed at that, but we're working on another one that's going to have the capabilities of doing that, packages and all that stuff. And then, obviously brand recognition on the website through social media and stuff like that. But I try to keep everything nice and local and community driven.
I was going to say, it's a fantastic opportunity, especially in the community.
When you step into Murrieta Mesa, they're all about the community there too. So just hand in hand, like both of us together, just create such a great relationship and a partnership that, we see eye to eye on that kind of stuff. And they do such a great job with, all their athletics and sponsors and, utilizing, their names and stuff like that for, what they get out of it and stuff. So, me, I'm always driven to that stuff. I love working with brands and companies and stuff. And, so seeing that and the way that we work together kind of helps out the whole situation. So.
Got it. So this is only a tiny part of who you are, actually. Yes. I want to get to Take Pride Golf. Mm-hmm. I'm really fascinated with that story of, how you're getting that going even now, yep. The momentum that you're seeing. And then also I want to talk kind of your experiences managing your brother. Mm-hmm. So give me a little bit of a background, because this is actually something I don't even know, just like on a friend level. Where did you grow up? Kind of go back as far as you feel like. Give me the junior high school version. Who was Jon Cantrell? What are you doing back then? And you're pretty entrepreneurial. You've got a couple different irons in the fire. Where did that come from? Is that kind of something recent, or were you out there hawking lemonade at stands?
Great question. Well, I mean, it starts back from, I grew up in Orange County, Costa Mesa, Newport Beach. My whole life, pretty much up until about 10 or so years ago. And growing up, obviously everything stemmed from basketball. My whole brand and everything came from basketball, which obviously, I can't thank enough, for those experiences and stuff. And but I found basketball at about 11, 12 years old. My parents never pressured me into, you need to do this, you need to do that. I actually came from, younger, I was, modeling and doing commercials and stuff, actually.
My man.
So, doing that. And then I actually got a role, and they needed me to move to LA.
Okay.
And, kind of a crazy experience. I turned it down because I wasn't going to move to LA and do home studies. I was kind of getting away from that. I wanted to do more things with friends and, all that stuff. And, so at 11.
And you're 11?
Yeah, I was about, before that, but 11, 12 is when I found, basketball, started playing a little bit more stuff with like my friends, and instead of being like an individual.
Was the role, it was like an acting role, like for a TV show?
Yeah,
or
it was a TV show, actually. It was with, the Tim the Toolman Taylor with, what was that show? Gosh dang, I can't even think of it now. With Tim Allen. I was the older son.
Okay.
The older brother. And but yeah, and then I realized that guy had a regular life and went to Esperanza High School and played soccer and, was completely different what they told me.
Do you regret that, looking back?
I can't say that
because there's kind of some of those pivotal moments where, not necessarily regret. I think that's kind of a tricky question. Would you have made a different choice just for the hell of it? And obviously you're looking back,
To be honest, no.
Okay.
I really wouldn't. I mean, I'm so thankful for the opportunity. It was just one of those opportunities I just didn't take.
Totally.
You know, I'm completely 100% fine with where I'm at. And I enjoyed, you know, doing the things that I'm doing, you know, on my own, and you know, would have been a great experience, absolutely, for sure. But you know, the connections and the relationships that I have now probably would have never came about, you know, if I would have taken that. So I definitely don't regret that or change my decision, you know, one bit. No way.
Cool. So you're 11, 12. You're getting into basketball.
Yeah. So my elementary school was by a boys and girls club. And, you know, all you have to do is just walk across the field. And so with there, it was like, you know, school, you know, my parents had, you know, jobs and stuff, you know, so we would go, you know, to there and kind of play around, kind of
After school, stuff like that.
just
Yep.
discover like ourselves and kind of, you know, obviously have more fun with our friends and stuff like that. And from there, it's like, okay, I was, you know, you did roller hockey, you know, you did like, you know, dodgeball and like all these like leagues and stuff like that they have there at Boys and Girls Club. And I tried basketball one time, and, you know, growing up, I was a little bit taller than, you know, average. And so I sprouted pretty quickly. I matured really quickly. And so at that age, you know, when I'm looking at myself, 6th grade, and our team did really well, but I wasn't a top scorer or anything, you know, I was still learning and stuff, but I did get my first award. I got best rebounder.
Nice.
So,
Okay.
you know, it was kind of cool, you know, it was, you know, motivating. And I think that's where like my drive and that motivation came from, was just that one instance of getting an award.
Mm-hmm.
And then, you know, and for someone noticing something that you weren't even trying to do, you know, and which I don't even think is an award now, you know, like there's no best rebounder anymore, you know. But you know, just one of those things that don't show up in the stat sheets. You know, you're just kind of that cleanup Dennis Rodman type, you know, just do whatever you can to make the team win, you know. And so my driving force was that. And all I wanted to do was just get better and better and better. And I wanted to be like that person who got, you know, the top scorer or MVP or whatever. And it was just something that clicked in my mind, you know. And like I said before, like my parents never, you know, pushed me to do anything. They didn't play basketball or anything. My dad didn't grow up doing, you know, basketball and stuff. So, you know, it was definitely like myself who chose that and pushed myself to, you know, to the limits of, you know, where I'm at today, you know, what carried on to, you know, the stuff that I deal with day to day. So definitely a fun experience. And I made basketball my life. I mean, basketball was everything to me. You know, my parents had always told me that, you know, if you're gonna do something, you know, see it through, give it, you know, 110%. And that's literally what I did, morning, noon, and night.
And this is all in Orange County, right?
It's all in Orange County.
And how long was this? Because you started like, let's say 12. Mm-hmm. So how long was this period?
I mean, all the way until, you know, pretty much now, you know. But, you know, from there was, you know, getting into travel teams.
Did your first job have something to do with basketball?
My first job actually did have something to do.
Well, what was your first job? We got to get to that.
So my first job was after school program director. I worked for the school that actually I went to, and that was so my brother is 8 years apart. My brother and I are 8 years apart.
Younger or older?
Younger than me.
Younger, okay.
So older brother, you know, me and him are really, really close. I always wanted to hang out. Always, you know, I kind of felt like I was always a friendly parent to him. You know, when my parents were gone, we'd
8 years
hang
is
out.
a good gap.
Yeah. And I would take him everywhere. You know, we'd experience everything together. So it was like my responsibility, you know, and so we did a lot of things together. And so I had to, like, you know, that was my job. And like I said previous, I had some friends, and my old partner actually did that same thing. It's kind of like seemed like once you got out of high school, that's something that you did was, you know, you did that. So I kind of came full circle.
That meaning
after school.
After school. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
so,
Got it.
I kind of came back around.
And especially because you have that love of sports, you're super active, I assume, in the athletic community. So that was like a natural.
And it was cool because I got to see my teachers and stuff that I had, you know, and then I got to, you know, play basketball and football and stuff like that with the kids. And I enjoyed working with kids and my brother's friends and stuff like that, you know. So from there, we were coaching and doing stuff within the city, doing that kind of stuff. But yeah, the first job was the city of Costa Mesa, you know, Parks and Rec.
Very cool.
So, yeah.
You mentioned your brother, so let's talk about that really quick. So talk to us a little bit about him, what he does, and then how, because you managed him, or do you still manage him?
I don't anymore.
Okay.
But I did as he got brought up. He rides freestyle motocross for a living.
Okay.
You know, I don't know if anybody, you know, doesn't know that they do the crazy, you know, tricks and stuff on dirt bikes.
And there's some crazy tricks. I mean, we just saw you guys both at the Miramar Air Show.
Yeah.
And you guys were out there with Monster, and yeah, some of the shit that he was pulling, I was like, man, like with the wind and everything, that was crazy. And, you know, seeing him on Instagram and stuff is really cool. I'm super good with my feet straight on the ground. Like
I'm good with there too.
But it's so cool to watch. At what point did he start doing that? And then I know for a while you managed him, or you were helping do that. I mean, obviously there's that nice age gap. Talk to me a little bit about that.
Yeah. So, you know, again, I feel like it was kind of a responsibility of mine to kind of point him in the right direction. And I'm not taking, you know, credit by any mean at all, but, you know, our family is very, very close. And, you know, no pun intended, we take pride in, you know, in everyone's passions in our, you know, in our family, and, you know, we help each other out.
I sense that as a theme. It's kind of an ongoing theme.
And so, you know, with my dad having a motocross background, I
didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's cool.
So my dad raced, loved camping, you know, went out and rode with his friends and stuff. And he's a very good, you know, rider himself. And, so I think that was like kind of like the direction that my brother wanted to take. That was kind of like his liking. He enjoyed doing sports and stuff too as well. But I think
he's pretty tall.
He is. He's about, you know, about 6'1".
Yeah.
You know, he got the height of the family, and we can go back. We can circle back around.
No basketball there?
To myself with basketball. But with him was he just took a liking to that. He was very skilled, very good, very detail oriented, and I think with that, it was just he absorbed it. He made it his lifestyle, and we were able to provide that and help with that. And the more, you know, it's just like anything. The more you're around it, you know, the more you make it a lifestyle. You know, the more the better it is. You know, that you are going to succeed at that. You know. So we gave him that, you know, those tools to be able to do that. And at about 15 years old is when he had his very first show for the Riders for Christ at Anaheim Stadium. And, you know, 15 years old, and you're making, you know, a couple grand, you know, just jumping your dirt bike, doing something that you love that you never probably would have thought that you've ever done, you know, or would do. And to this day, you know, what is he, 28 now? He's, you know, doing a great job for himself and his family. So I'm very proud of him.
That's cool. That's really cool.
It's amazing.
So at what point did you, because I'm seeing kind of some of these themes, like you love basketball, but I see this entrepreneurial bent of kind of doing your own thing, and then also building a brand. And I know you had to build a brand around Take Pride, you know, the basketball league, and there was also youth leagues, correct, that you had in there, like training camps and different things. And then with golf, but for him, when you were involved with, you know, managing him or helping him out with that, how did you think about managing him as kind of a personality?
It was easy because, you know, he's a talented person. He's got a great look to him. You know, him and I both, we don't present ourselves in a bad demeanor, or, you know, we're very professional and clean, and, you know, I mean, obviously we like to have fun and stuff.
Is that kind of not how the state of things normally is, or?
I think it was easier for us to be more taken serious.
Okay.
I think on those aspects. So a lot of people,
rather than just like, oh, you ride a dirt bike.
Right. So let's.
Oh, your brother rides
a
dirt. Oh, cool.
You know,
yeah.
I think it was definitely easier to have that look, and the demeanor and just knowing what you're talking about and the audience that you're talking to is very important. And again, it comes with those relationships and those connections that you build they play a huge part. And without those, I mean, nothing would be possible at all. So, I managed him when he first came up and kind of guided him in directions and helped with money situations. And, whenever he went overseas to any events and stuff, if he went out of the country, I would go with him. So that was a great experience for both of us to kind of, have an experience together was, going to those different countries and, having fun doing that. I mean, we really grew our relationship going, throughout those times.
Is that ever tough? Like because then you're in a working relationship,
Yes.
Is that ever tough working with your sibling?
Yeah, it is. And that was the thing was we came to kind of like an understanding. I guess it wouldn't even be an understanding really, but we came to a part in our relationship where it was either or. Mm-hmm. And I felt at that point, nothing was worth more than losing my relationship with my brother at all. And I felt at that time it was a good way to kind of step away, walk away from actually managing him and supporting him.
Totally.
Completely different.
It's totally different.
Completely different, and I would never wish that or ask or think of that ever again. There are some things where like he has helped me out with the golf side of things, but that is going to be a strict like working relationship versus a managing relationship. Egos can get to come into play and money is driven.
What advice would you give to someone who's thinking of managing their family member? Because for example, like, so my cousin Nikita rides professional BMX.
Yep.
And I, randomly have had that thought occasionally, like I love promoting stuff. I love networking. I love some of the, I think could be skills that would be important for someone to promote or manage someone. And so, I kind of thought about like, oh, that'd be fun. We've kind of randomly talked about it. Yeah. I definitely don't. She has an incredible team of people behind her, my aunts and other people professionally in the world. But is there some advice that you'd give to someone who was interested in working with a sibling, a spouse, just kind of that dynamic that you've experienced already? Is there some advice that you'd give there?
I would honestly, I mean, it could work. And I would say if we were at the point where we were then to where we are now, just being that much more mature and understanding of the wants and the needs from each other, just lay everything out there in the beginning, I think would probably be the best advice or the direction to go. Would probably be that if you are looking into managing or focusing on a talent of a family member or something. I would have to go with that. And then make sure that it's not all about them as well. So like if you were to have another athlete or two or another, talent of some sort.
Oh, so make sure that you're like you managing wasn't just you managing them. You're managing 5 or 6 other athletes who
because that separates
are
it a
actually
bit.
doing that.
That keeps it separate a little bit and that doesn't make it seem like, that person needs all the attention or is demanding all the attention. They have to understand that their attention is, spread out with everyone else under the agency. Or
kind of a business.
It is, 100%.
And you have to take it seriously like that.
Definitely.
Do you think people, because I don't know, did your brother start out to become a professional motocross
No.
rider or not really? No. So it kind of is something that evolved.
It evolved.
Okay.
For sure.
Totally.
Yeah. I mean, he wasn't like a socialite or someone that was like super popular right off the bat. It was, he wasn't like a Ryan Sheckler or a Travis Pastrana or something like that, where you're just like, the it kid when you come up, or you get presented. But
for those guys, because for Ryan Sheckler, his family did manage him for.
Yeah, his mom still does.
Still does. Okay, yeah. So
he has like an agent, but his mom is is managing.
I feel like that is such a blessing, and that also could be such a curse.
Yeah.
Because like someone who knows you so well, and I mean, you even think of super high profile people like the Kardashians.
Yeah.
That's a great example. But someone who knows you so well, but you have to also draw that line. You're making business decisions that have an economic component to them. That's wild. Okay, so that's a lot of interesting reflection. I'm interested then, tell me the segue from basketball to golf.
Yeah, so coming from my old business, my old company, I had to make come up with like a kind of like a scheme or like a company that wasn't just directed towards basketball.
Okay.
I wanted a brand that was, like an overall, like kind of just like, and then entities underneath it, that kind of like a Nike, per se,
So you wanted more than just specifically like a basketball brand. You wanted
for me, like
sports brand.
If I see like a team, because I'm huge in like the coaching and running tournaments and the youth market. Mm-hmm. So when I see like teams and stuff like that coming out of the woodworks and they're, something elite and, something basketball or, all-stars or whatever it may be, I feel like you're setting yourself up for failure, because I don't feel that any of those teams should be labeled as that, mm-hmm. Two, I feel like you're only labeled as basketball, right? So that's fine for those that are only going to do that. But for me, I wanted to do more. Mm-hmm. And I wanted something that was definitely motivational, inspiring, something that was, relatable. And that's why, I came up with, I like two names. I like 2-word names. And then stuff that's, definitely, strong and meaningful, like take is just so like strong.
It's more of an aggressive word. Yeah,
totally.
Definitely
an aggressive word. Good point. Or a good way of putting it. And then, pride is just, if you're passionate about something, if you want to be successful at something, you got to really have pride in it.
And pride is a great name also for communities, because like local communities, I think, have a lot of pride, and sometimes depending on the community, depending on where you're at, you may not have as much kind of local pride, but I think especially in the Murrieta Temecula area where you are, and definitely other pockets that I could see it being really successful in, that's big. Yeah. Community and local pride is huge. So great name. So golf was kind of your first stepping out of the basketball umbrella. Why golf?
Well, I started playing golf about 5, maybe 6 years ago.
Okay.
And it was kind of just one of those things where I got clubs and, I was like, well, I'll just go to the range or something, and it kind of just took off from there. I had a chance to go play with my buddies, and I immediately I grew a love for how hard the damn sport is.
Yeah.
And it is so up and down. The challenge of not being good in the beginning was definitely something that I wanted. Mm-hmm. And the challenge of not being good yesterday, great today, terrible tomorrow, great the next day, shitty the next day. It's like, it's so up and down that it's you never know what you're going to get. So it's a mind game, and it's kind of one of those things where you let everything else just go and just go out there and enjoy, the environment.
So what do you guys do? Because for anyone who's just listening to this, and not checking out the podcast, mm-hmm. The podcast on YouTube, what do you guys? Are you just kind of a lifestyle brand? Do you manufacture apparel? What are you doing?
Yeah. So going back to how everything kind of transpired was, I had a really, really good high school basketball team at that time last year or 2 years ago, and they were freshmen.
Oh, and this was the youth.
This was the youth
side of Take Pride. Okay.
Yeah. So
Take Pride, the basketball league.
Yeah. And so with that is I was taking these kids to like college viewing tournaments, getting them seen in front of, the college coaches, getting them in the environment of having tons of fans and being looked at and kind of in that spotlight. So I have them from February to, July. at that time, I had no other team. I had no desire for any other teams. I had this team from when they were fourth grade all the way to their freshman in high school.
Oh, wow.
So I grew with them, you know, and, you know, personally and, you know, through basketball and stuff, you know, you get to know their families and stuff, you know. So I felt it was like my job. I was obligated to kind of stick through it and kind of see. And they stuck with me after all the changes and stuff. So we saw that through. And then once July came around, I was like, man, I have no interest in getting new teams set up, because to make money in that industry, you got to have multiple teams. And with me, I was running tournaments and stuff. So with those teams, you need to take those teams to other tournaments to get reciprocated back. So if I have 4 teams and I take them to a tournament and I'm trying to get teams to my tournament, they have to come. So it's like a, you know, it's a trade. It's a trade. And with trades, you don't really make money. So I had no desire to have multiple teams. It just took too much time. The kids, you know, are definitely not as serious. The parents, you know, no, nothing against, you know, parenting and stuff like that. But it just, if I have more, you know, pride and more want for the sport than you guys do, that's tough for me. And I don't know if that's just something, the way that I was brought up or the way that I was coached or whatever. I don't know what it may be, or what it is, but, you know, it is what it is. So at that time I was like, okay, well, you know, I had to make sure my coaches and stuff look good for the tournaments and stuff. So I started making my own polos, where I get my basketball uniforms made. Well, the coaches, myself, were like, oh, these actually, you know, turned out really, really nice. And so obviously my stuff said Take Pride Basketball on it. And then going to the course, I wanted to start wearing my own stuff. So I started wearing my Take Pride, you know, my basketball polos, and I'm going, well, now I don't want basketball to be on this polo. I want golf, you know, something more, you know, for that industry. And so then that started coming about, and I was like, well, you know what? And then people started, you know, getting their hands on some of the polos, and I was liking them, and the samples were really good. And then you started coming out, you know, jackets and sweaters and some other stuff, small numbers, and you know, apparel stuff. And then all of a sudden it came to that point where it was like, well, you know, do you want to be a polo company, or do you want to really try to get into something that is, you know, in a high demand for the golf industry, which is gloves. And those are repeat customers.
Because the gloves only last a certain amount of time,
about
right?
5 rounds.
Oh, wow. Okay.
About 5 rounds. So, you know, you're looking at about a $20 glove. But, you know, polos are $45 to $80, and those can last you, you know, I'm looking in my closet going, I've had that for 2 years. I've had that for a year. I've had that for 2 years. And I'm like, well, those will still last me. Like, I'll be fine. Yeah. You know, that to me isn't repeating customer. You know, when you can allow to have your jacket or your polo last you for 2-3 years.
Couple of years, yeah.
You know, I'm not making money on that.
Yeah.
This isn't a brand, you know, and I'm not going to compete with those guys who already have the technology set out for their apparel for, you know, 3-4 years out, you know, and they have millions of dollars. So with me, it's like, okay, well, I can tap into like the community-based market or small, but that's still, it's almost like a hobby. It's not an actual business. So the whole thing came about with the golf glove, and, you know, through R&D and you know, kind of just thinking about it and kind of introducing it to the market and stuff like that. It's, you know, that is where I see, you know, the business going and my brand going is focusing on that.
How much are you actually golfing, but golfing with your gloves and kind of promoting them in person versus doing cold calling or posting on Instagram?
100% of the time.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's cool.
Yeah.
That's really cool. Why have you chosen that strategy? Because you could go a number of different ways. I mean, you could just get on the phone all day.
I feel like I'm more personable. Like I'm, you know, in person. I know what to talk about and kind of, obviously, you know, I can sell my brand more in person than I can, you know, probably talking on the phone or trying to sell it, you know, to you by, you know, chit-chatting on the phone. So, through social media and just, you know, word of mouth, being in contact with someone face to face has been, you know, but it's still fresh. It's still really new. I mean, I launched the brand officially in November.
Oh, wow. Okay, so we're
for the golf.
Oh, wow. So we're 3 months in.
Yeah.
That's cool.
And it's been a year in the process. I mean, a year in the making of just, literally it's been a year from I leave for Orlando for the PGA show next week. And it was probably about a couple months before that, in 2019 was, when I started really cracking down and really making this, come to life.
Are you coming out to the Farmers Open?
Of course I am. I'm going to come see you.
All right.
Come on now.
In a
hopefully my post to help you guys out and get some people to work over there.
Yeah. If you guys are listening to this, we are hiring. Actually, it's kind of funny. I don't talk too much on this podcast about what I do with Common Sense Events.
I love it.
Which is kind of super weird. I think I should probably talk about it more.
Absolutely. I'm a huge fan of you and what you have going on, and I appreciate the grind and the work ethic that you have, man. I enjoy it.
Thank you.
I love seeing it. And you're younger than I am, and I'm not afraid to say that I'm a fan.
Well, if you guys have seen this guy play basketball, he doesn't show it at all. I'm out there stressing couple times up and down the court. I'm out of shape. I got to get back into it.
I'm almost retired, man. that golf course is calling my name now every day.
Yeah. Well, I see your posts. You guys are doing really good.
Thank you.
Posting, the consistency's there. That's one of the hardest things that I found is like the consistency of posting on Instagram and continuously, not even necessarily always looking to provide value, although that's important, but saying something, having that voice, having that presence, the consistency of that, I think that's what people like to see. They like to engage with someone who's there, not when you just take massive vacations. And that's something I've, honestly struggled with over the past year. So I'm looking forward to getting back into that.
Yeah, definitely.
I want to ask one last question before we wrap up here.
Sure.
What would you recommend? Like, because you're 3 months in now, you've done the year of R&D. What advice would you give to someone who wanted to start a brand, whether it's a t-shirt company, whether it's any sort of apparel company, any sort of brand at all where they really have to go out there and promote themselves? From your experiences so far, what would you say would be a couple tips that they could use to be a bit more effective? And I got to preface this too. Say this person doesn't know a ton of people or have a ton of money, kind of with the limited resources that I know you've had, maybe some scenarios. What would your advice be?
I mean, obviously it all depends on what you're trying to really accomplish or the product that you have an idea of. I think myself, I'm pretty fortunate with things and people that I've came across and people that I know and stuff like that. But just
I think that's a little nugget right there, maybe, because you're also networking.
So, right? Exactly. So I mean, it's kind of just knowing how you want to like what your overall goal, your overall vision of what you're trying to accomplish is key. And then so how are you going to accomplish those goals if you do have limited resources or if you have unlimited resources? So, but even like going beyond that is just, whatever you think of, it's possible, and giving it your all, 110%. You can't go into it, and some of us are fortunate to where, what
does that mean?
Born into things,
okay.
Or, I guess lucky enough to be in certain situations. I'm definitely not one of those at all. I work hard for everything that I've gotten and that I still, want. Nothing's handed to me by any means, but I just say just give it your all, 110%, and don't take no for an answer. Anything is possible. Anything that your heart and your mind desires is possible, and you just keep working for it. There's going to be bumpy roads.
So many people live their lives with like an either or mentality.
Absolutely. Instead
of that both and mentality. 100%. And I think that's totally what you're talking about.
Yeah.
We've been taught to choose between one thing or the other thing. Yeah. And so if you are able to say, no, screw that. Like, I can have both. I can have my cake and eat it too. I just maybe have to do the timing right. Absolutely. Or, I have to be a little bit more patient for one versus the other. But I think that's a really good word.
Yeah. I like that. Good way of putting that.
Awesome. Jon, thank you so much, man. I really appreciate
me. I appreciate you.
Yeah. I really appreciate you coming by. And if you guys are looking to check out Jon, any of the things that he's running, tell us a little bit about where they can find you online.
Instagram is the best.
Okay.
You can check out the basketball league, the TPML. That's the Take Pride Men's League.
TPML,
on Instagram
okay.
at the TPML. And then the golf stuff is at Take Pride Golf. And that's all in there too.
Cool. And if you guys golf,
obviously myself, Jon Cantrell, 23.
there you go. Nice basketball number right there.
That's right. Always.
Yeah, if you guys golf at all, or even if you don't, you're just interested in checking out what he does, the golf page is awesome. The basketball page is awesome too, but I mean, you guys post some really fire content on the golf page, and so
try to keep up to you.
No, not at all. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for tuning in. I really appreciate it. As always, make sure you're subscribed and let me know other guests that you'd like me to interview. Let me know what you thought of today's episode. Give Jon a shout out on his social media accounts, and we'll see you guys in the next show. Thank you so much.